call the meeting to order at 6:12 p.m. and the first agenda item is the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next agenda item is correspondence, visitors, and public comments. Anybody else online? There.
For something else.
Pardon?
There goes for something else.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. We're here for the Missisquoi. Next agenda item is the agenda review, which I don't have any because we revised it. Julie, do you have anything else?
No, I'll just point out that we took out the stormwater contract, and I think that was the only agenda change.
And adding the minutes for approval for.
And we, oh, that's correct, we added the minutes
Yeah.
because they were on the website.
Perfect. All right, next is the approval for the January 23rd minutes. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the January 23rd minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the January 23rd minutes.
Thank you, Peter. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Devin. Any comments or questions or changes? All right. Seeing none, all those agree to approve the minutes of January 23rd, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries 8-0. Next is the January 29th minutes to be approved.
I'll make a motion to approve the January 29th.
Thank you, Peter. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Devin. Any discussion, comments on those? Seeing none, everyone who voted to approve the January 29th minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries
I'll
8.
abstain.
Oh, okay. 7. That's right here. Okay. And then next we have the MVU administrative reports. Does anybody besides me have any questions or comments?
I like the use of the sign. It's good. I saw you out there recognizing the cheerleading team. Great, shows up. Right.
First place finish. Yep, good stuff.
Tomorrow's read aloud day or something.
Yep, National Read Aloud Day. Yep. We're gonna have an activity around that as well at the end of the month here in the library as well on the 23rd. Yep.
So let me see. So the middle school honor roll, Christy, when you are recognizing the students to congratulate, how else do you do it? Do you put it out to how do you put it out to the school or to the other students or so that everybody else knows?
So each team announces it on their team, and we have not been good about putting it on social media. So we're gonna get all of semester 1 kids together and do a post, and then we'll probably do it monthly from then on.
Excellent. I just want to make sure that everybody else is
Yep.
seeing that they're being recognized as
Yep.
well. So
A question. Personal Finance Day. How the people leading it, two of the teachers and business.
The two business leaders are helping to organize it, but it's bringing in a lot of experts from the community, bank managers and others that can kind of talk to students around, what it's like to get a car loan and various loans and banking and various bonds and what they would be.
I like the idea that as good a job as teachers and principals might do, to have the people who are really doing the jobs that you might interact with 2 or 3 years from now.
Yep.
That was really good.
Yep. And there's also going to be a sit-down kind of interview portion where people from the community will interview our students and vice versa, just around some of their interests. So, yeah.
Or either Dan or Christie.
So I see that, they're working with Ross LaVoy, building trades,
Yep.
this wall.
Yep.
So that's all going good.
It's doing really well. We have 11 students here in Building Trades 1, and so that's what we talked about last year. So we have Ross kind of working out of J-Pod a little bit on some days, on some projects here. Other days they go down to BFA, but they are the ones who help build this wall here. They've got a little bit more work to do on it. They got to paint it. The door frame comes in next week, and there's a new door frame going on the other side over there, which comes in. And once they get the door framed in, then the electrical guy comes in, and it's good to go.
It's pretty cool, because, the kids and everything get to see, hey, we did this.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's great. They've been, and Ross has been fantastic. Ross and Boyd down at
Yeah.
Building Trades has been fantastic to work with, and literally is like, what kind of projects you guys got for our kids? And they're gonna help build a softball shed. They're gonna help build a lean-to out off the blue building for some of the equipment out there to get it out of the elements. So it's been fantastic to work with, and it's been a great partnership.
That's great, I'm glad to see that.
No, they've been very happy about, not having to always transport our kids down there, then bring them back up, or bring them all over the place and have projects, and so it's been a really great partnership. Working with that, yeah.
I thought it was cool that you let us know that one of the custodians had a new child. I said, that's kind of neat stuff,
Yeah.
though,
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
really neat, that's cool.
Part of the family, yeah.
Should be 1 minute. He was struggling to.
He was texting us.
All right, so any other questions or comments, and to the district report, your side. Of course, top of it is congratulations to Tanya Hayes, excellent. I loved the St. Louis Messenger clip, that was really nice, yes, very good job.
It was, I was really grateful that Chris Dodge nominated her and shared his idea for doing so and wrote a beautiful letter. And I know Tanya is, and I want Tanya to say something, but I know that she's very humble, but I really have such respect for her and how she goes above and beyond for our most challenging students and families. Well deserved.
Thank you. And thank you to Chris for nominating me. It was quite a surprise and I was flattered. Thank you.
Jen, I would also just say, I put in a few pieces about the legislature as of, I don't know, Wednesday when I wrote this. Laura and I were both listening to the live stream of House Ways and Means Committee today, and they are putting forth their, they are modeling what it would look like for switching from the 5% cap to a targeted cent off incentive for schools that have the greatest capacity loss with the tax rate. So they are modeling that now.
I shared a little PowerPoint presentation of a summary of that and the impact to MVSD and the drive.
Julie, I don't know if you just saw, we all got a VSBA notice at 5:19 tonight that the Ways and Means Committee is considering language that will allow for postponement of school budget voting.
Yeah.
If districts decide to go that route, which I think is interesting because that's going to have to be decided in the next week, right? Maybe.
They won't have that change in time. They said a minimum of 3 weeks before they make any changes.
Yeah, so they're making it, there is already legislation because of COVID that says you can delay your meetings. But they are tightening up that language, so, and this is targeted for districts that are, say, Champlain Valley School District, or it's the really big districts that lost a lot of tax capacity, because if they take away the cap, those districts are looking at their equalized tax rate being, $1 extra, so it's a very large, change. And so they want to give districts that are the highest spenders, the opportunity to make changes should they need to. And they're hoping that those districts spending the most, will make changes.
Wouldn't that give them yet another advantage though? Because wouldn't we like to all delay our votes right now with all the uncertainty? Unbelievable.
Yeah,
I can't believe what I'm hearing.
knowing there's a new, what the yield would likely change.
Yeah.
Because of this,
Right.
Yeah.
which has a potentially quite beneficial impact to us.
They
And
used a
so-
yield of 9,775
Which is the highest one
today.
we've seen so far. So it does change, it changes what we'd be considering. But, yeah, so, that's interesting.
They probably set the yield right after they all delay their votes. So they'll have the benefit of knowing the yield when they go to the voters.
Well, probably not, because the yield it's just about the last thing they do before they leave. But it is, I don't know if it's so much of an advantage because they're the ones that are going to be looking at the most significant tax increases, but they will have more information, right? It's honestly, it's just unprecedented. It just is.
Any more questions or comments to make for the MVU district newsletter? Alright. We can then move right along to Steve Messier's behavioral update. Oh, no, wait, I'm sorry, I jumped it because I couldn't see because of the darkness. Oh, it's shadowed on my paper. MVU musical update.
How is everybody?
Good.
Good.
We can separate up so we can,
Over there?
wherever some can
Sure.
see better and
Also,
stuff.
we have very little context as to what you want to hear from us, so we're gonna give you what we have, and then if you have any questions, then we will answer them. I can go first. Okay. Okay, so I'm just gonna give you some numbers in terms of, so you get an idea of what the scope is. First, how many of you have seen an MVU musical before? Okay, hopefully you all see Footloose this year. So yes, we are doing Footloose. Unlike the movie, it's not set in the 80s, it's set in like the,
Thank you.
it's set in the 2010s-ish, in the Midwest. It's essentially the same story, it has all the songs from the movie. It's really fun, there's a bunch of dance, they're all in it. Yeah, we've been having a lot of fun. We've been rehearsing since the beginning of January. We have 30 kids in the cast. We're gonna have about 8 to 10 helping with stage crew. We have usually about 6 kids in the booth and then about 3 to 5 in the pit band. So we've got about 50 plus kids involved in the musical every year, which is a massive amount of students, and we need a lot of help to serve them. So I'm not the only person, I'm Miriam, by the way, Miriam Bucci, I'm the director. We also have Danielle Turner, who does the vocal directing, Aaron Garso, who does the music directing, Jen Raynack, who's in charge of the technical direction, and she's also the production manager this year, so she's doing all of the admin stuff so that I can focus on helping these guys get the show together. And then we have an amazing group of parent volunteers. We've got entire families who come up to help. They are in charge of fundraising, front of house, set building, costumes, hair, makeup, choreography. They do everything and they do it for free, and they give us an immense amount of time, and we could not do it without them, so I'm really grateful to have that team. And each adult and student that works on the show gives about 200 to 300 hours from start to finish. We rehearse a lot and we put in a lot of work. And this year we're doing something special. We're going to New York City. I'm going to tell you what our itinerary looks like for that, just so you can feel as excited as we are for this trip. So we decided to make it accessible to as many kids as we could, so we kept the price at $200 a person. which means we've been fundraising like crazy. We sold 500 boxes of Krispy Kremes, which is a lot of donuts. We have a lawnmower raffle going, so you can buy a $50 ticket or 2 for $75 to enter a raffle to win a $3,200 lawnmower, 0 turn. The second place prize is a Sterno fire pit, and then the third place prize is a free oil change and tire rotation. We are over halfway there. We've raised about $7,000, and we need the rest of it. So if any of you would like to purchase a raffle ticket, or you know someone who wants to, please do. And please come see the show. That's really where we get most of our revenue from, is from ticket sales. It was a beautiful weekend last year when our show opened Newsies, and so a lot of people were outside, and we didn't do as well as we had hoped, so we're trying to catch up a little bit this year. We're hoping with Footloose we get a lot of people to come see the show. So back to New York. We need a lot of money to go. We've appealed to about 90 businesses. We sent Katie Underwood, she is head of fundraising with Bridget Favreau, and they put together an amazing letter and they sent it out to 90 businesses, and we're waiting to hear back from people. So we're really trying our best to get the community involved in helping us to go to New York. We're going during April break. We're going for 3 days. We're taking a coach bus down. The first day we're there, we're going to take a walking tour of Times Square, Fifth Avenue, and Rockefeller Center. And then some students are going to go see Hamilton while others are doing that. And then the next day we're going to take a musical theater workshop, which is really a phenomenal experience, and I'm so happy that we were able to fit this into the itinerary. They get to learn the music from a professional music director that works on Broadway, and then learn the choreo from a professional actor who is currently in a Broadway show. And I think we're pushing to get someone from Hamilton to help us, so fingers crossed that happens. We're also going to go to the American Museum of Natural History in Central Park. We're going to go see Hadestown, which is a Vermont, a show that was written in Vermont by Anais Mitchell. It's been on Broadway for a few years now. It won a bunch of Tonys. It's really amazing. It's the story of Orpheus and Eurydice in the underworld. We're going to go to Ellis Island. We'll go to the 9/11 Memorial, and we'll go to the Native American History Museum. And all of that is included in their $200. So essentially all they're paying for out of pocket once they get there is meals. And it's really great. Would you guys like to share what your experience is? Or do you want me to share Caleb's first? So there's a student who couldn't be here tonight, but he really wanted to share about his experience. I'm going to read it to you. He has a tendency to write novels. We had to pare down his bio in the program last year, so he got a little carried away, so bear with me as I read this. It's really amazing, though. He's been in the musical since 8th grade, since I started, so here we go. Imaginary. I've been in the musical since 8th grade, 2022, when they put on Mary Poppins. I didn't know anyone there except for my best friend at the time, but by the time we put on our closing show, I felt like I had a new appreciation for the arts, a new passion, and a new family. The musical is one of the only places where I can just let loose and truly be myself. I've always been a loud and social person, which normally comes out at the wrong times, but the musical embraces it. The cast and staff always makes me feel loved and appreciated the second I step into the room. Everything has its ups and downs, but in the musical, it's so high up that any down still has you in the stars. I don't think I've ever laughed or smiled as much as I have in the musical, and that's all thanks to the absolutely perfect cast and absolutely perfect staff. Last year in Newsies, the director wrote us all opening night cards which were personalized for us. Reading mine, I felt so incredibly seen and loved. I've never received such a heartfelt note before. I smiled so much I feared she thought I was laughing at the note. If this doesn't show how perfect the staff here is, I don't know what does. Maybe the fact that the music teacher, Danielle Turner, always offered us help on learning the music further shows that. Maybe the fact that the choreographer, Jodie Putnam, gives us hundreds of tries and never asks us to do more than we're capable of shows that. I never thought you could be taught in such a way that's so productive and so fun. The reason we listen to the staff is not because they're in charge of us, but because we truly respect them and what they have to say. Nothing feels forced or expected. They never talk down to us, and they never make us feel less than. Everyone in the staff teaches us with patience and kindness, and we perform a great show every year because of that. Performing can be a life-changing experience. It was for me. It's like you and your friends are the most important thing in the world at that moment. And when you say a line and the audience laughs or gasps, it's truly euphoric. And even if you accidentally say a line wrong at the time and accidentally almost skip an entire song, you know you'll come back from it and everyone performing with you will laugh along with you when it gets brought up a week later. This year, we were told we're going to New York, and everyone's been working their butts off to help fundraise for the event, especially the staff. This is an incredible opportunity, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around the fact we're actually going to be able to go. There's something in the itinerary for everyone, and it's been a truly thought-out field trip. If I had to say anything to someone who's never heard of MVU's musicals, I'd tell them to try it. Whether you're on stage or backstage or in the lighting booth or hair and makeup, there's always a fun experience to be had. Plus, you leave with a new friend group. Not even. It's like a new family. Or at the very least, go see Footloose and the shows to come. I bet you have a friend or family member in it, and supporting them is the best you can do. Also, Footloose is hilarious and incredibly fun, even if you don't enjoy musicals. And everyone in the cast is very entertaining and talented, if I say so myself. Thank you. So that was from Kate. And just for some context, if you don't know me, I went to MVU. I graduated in 2014, and I did the musical 7th grade all the way through 12th grade, and it was amazing. It's why I chose to be a music teacher. It's why I am who I am now. So it really has a huge impact on the students. So your turn.
Hello, I'm Ricardo Perez. It's a pleasure to be here. I am one of the leads in the new musical, Footloose. Sorry,
He is Ren McCormick. He is.
Yes.
Kevin Bacon?
Yes.
So, all I can say is that being a part of the musical is truly incredible. I've been doing it since the 7th grade, and I am sure that what I want to do in the future is be in this entertainment industry, whether it be writing or acting or even singing, just because I was a part of this musical and I never thought I would, do any of those things. The people there are truly extraordinary. I've never been in a room with so much talent and so much love, I suppose. It honestly feels like you're a part of a family, and it's really important that everyone there gets an extracurricular, because some people don't do sports or some people don't do things like that, and they can go there and they can have things and have people to talk to and express their interests with people who have the same similar interests, and they might not get that in regular school or at home. And yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you for listening.
I'm Cameron Lefebvre. Pretty much, I started the musical last year doing set building and also being stage crew backstage and repairing all the sets that were being broken or fell apart during the musical last year. I'm set building again this year while being stage crew when I can. I've been persuaded into being a cast member as well this year, as this is my senior year, so I've been persuaded into it. I enjoy the musical because, like they've said, it's like a family. Everyone's welcome there, and pretty much it's like in our home, pretty much. I don't really know what else to say. What was that?
Do you see music or acting in your future?
I'm not really sure.
Set building though.
Probably set
I
there.
think you came to us about FFA.
Yes,
Right?
yep.
I think that's,
That would, yes.
you're no pro at this. Second time.
Yeah, second time.
Hi, I'm Meredith Favreau, and I'm a member of the cast. I'm Rusty, and she's, for anybody who doesn't know, she's like the best friend of the main character. And I've been doing musicals since 8th grade, and a lot of what Ricardo and Caleb had said, it's just like a family that you don't get anywhere else. And we just have this strong sense of community. I'm friends with a bunch of other girls, we share a dressing room, and by the end, it's we're all just sisters, because we've spent so much time together, especially when we have rehearsals for 4 hours a day, all week long. And it's just the kind of family that, especially because some kids in the musical, they don't have that at school, or at home. And a lot of kids, I play sports, in the future, I want to be a scientist, and I don't want to do theater and stuff like that, but it gives me sort of an escape that I don't get from schoolwork and college classes and things like that. But it's just a whole another world that just gives you something that you don't get anywhere else. And we just have this community, and it just really means a lot to me. And going to New York is something that I've always wanted to do. Ever since I was a kid and I was acting, I thought about, wow, like what if I got to live in New York? At one point I was like, I want to live there. And, but it would just be a really cool experience for us and everybody in the cast. I know that a lot of people wouldn't get that opportunity regularly, and it would be a great opportunity for us.
When is it?
So this is April 13, 14, 15, or 11, 12, 13. I don't remember which. It's the second. There we go. Thank you. 11, 12, 13. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. There's 2 shows on the Saturday. We also have an Instagram account. If you want to follow us. Keep up with us.
How would you encourage people to give it a shot that, you know, think of theater and they're like, no, even though they might actually have a really good experience?
What convinced you to get on stage?
What convinced me was being stage crew last year and getting the feel for it, of being going on stage for maybe 30 seconds at a time just to move stuff around, but still being out in that light got the confidence for me this year. Pretty much just starting off as a stage crew person to get yourself out there to get the experience if you want to do it or not for being cast.
And there's so many areas that you can work on the musical. You can be in the booth, you can be in the band, you can be backstage, you can be on stage in the ensemble, you can be the lead, you can be in a smaller featured role. You could help with costumes, you could help with hair and makeup. There's so many different things that you could do to be a part of it and then get a little taste, just a little taste. And then I think the joy and the excitement that you feel from being on stage is, you can't get enough of it. Some people, most of us. And so that brings people in. And then I think the audition process maybe is intimidating to some people, but Mrs. Turner and I have definitely worked together to make sure that it's accessible to anybody who really wants to try. So if you don't know the songs from the musical, sing your favorite pop song. If you don't really know how to dance, that's okay. We'll stick you in the back and you can wag your finger. You know, anybody who wants to be on stage and be in the show, they can be in the show. So you don't turn anybody away.
And the best part about the musical is, like we've said, it's a family, so if you're not good at something, there are others are going to be able to back you up or help you with improving it, or be able to fix something you're not good at to be able to help you get better.
What's really cool about the musical is that 7 through 12. So we have middle school sports, we have JV, and then varsity, but in the musical you get to be with people in 7th grade through 12th grade, and so you have this like mentorship opportunity. As a young person, you have the opportunity to learn from these people who've done it for 6 years. And I can say, Ricardo, you really stepped into that leadership role this year, and I can see you just helping these new kids out who are in middle school who never don't know what blocking is. Okay, they said to go stage right. What does that mean? Okay, I have to. How do I say this line? And it's very supportive, and the kids are very good to each other. So I'm very grateful to have the kids to work with.
Where could we get raffles?
Right here.
Stop. Everything up.
Every student who's in the musical should have, or going to New York should have raffle tickets. And then our volunteers all have them. I don't think we have any people in the central office or, you know, in other schools who, maybe Swan has some because of Katie and Christine, but really the kids who are going to New York, they have raffle tickets to sell. And then if you want to buy one but you don't find anybody, you can email mvmusicals@gmail.com. We should probably have some official ones.
Yes, they should come to central office. I have a check here, so.
Great. Thank you.
If you drop some off at the central office, we all have access to that.
Sure.
Would be
I'll
great.
figure out when my assistant director is back in town and I'll have her drop some off because she has them too.
How much are there, do you have the prices now?
Sorry?
Do you have the prices now?
Yes,
or-
it is for the raffle tickets.
Yeah.
One for $50 or 2 for $75 for a $3,000 lawnmower. Steal.
Zero turn.
Zero turn lawnmower. And we're gonna poll the winners on opening night. April 11th.
Thank truly wonderful. This is why I do it, to see the opportunities that kids have, not just playing sports and music, band. It's just really heartwarming to see the opportunities that they have with the musical and everything. I played sports when I was in high school, and I feel like I missed out by not being in drama or band or the musicals, because I've seen kids growing up since that have that special bond, like, and don't think because you're going on to do something else that you can't continue these things, because my brother-in-law, who is a diesel mechanic, still does musicals, and he loves them, and he's older than I. So it's something you can do your whole life. So I just really appreciate you coming in and sharing that with us. It means a lot. And just a question, just from talking to my brother-in-law, how things always seem to come together at the end. You don't think they're going to, but they always seem to. So like, when do you really start, and how does that process work?
So I think about what musical we're gonna do all summer long, and I stress about it, and I pick one and then I change my mind, and then I pick one and then I change my mind, and then I tell people and then I change my mind. But by September I have a musical picked, and then I have to get it approved by the school, and then I will tease the cast and give them clues about what it is, so they have to guess and get stressed out, and then I finally tell them what it is. We have auditions in December, and then we start rehearsals the week after we come back from holiday break, and then we are rehearsing through till opening night. And it usually comes together opening night. I would say the dress rehearsal on Wednesday for the elementary school kids is really when everybody's like, okay, we gotta do this, it's gonna be amazing. I have experiences of sitting Tuesday night and like, but Wednesday everything comes together magically, and I think they do it despite me a little bit. So, yeah. And I will say, it's really impressive how many students have graduated from MVU who are either in the arts, in music, in theater. Just from people who I did musical with, there's a composer, there's a music therapist, a stand-up comic in New York City, I'm a music teacher, and people really, they stick with it. And we have, Aaron and Danielle really do. Sorry?
Our screenwriter.
Yes, that's right. Aaron and Danielle do a really good job with the music program here. And COVID was really hard, not just here, but I'm at VHS as the choir director. The numbers have really taken a big hit, but we're making it work. And the musical, I could not be more blessed to have the numbers that we have right out the gate, the Mary Poppins, and it's carrying on and it keeps growing. So I'm really grateful.
I commend all the students for the level of commitment that they're putting into these musicals. 4 hours a night, you said?
Like,
not the whole time.
When we get to like late March, we have these like rehearsals called doubles where usually our rehearsals are 2 hours at a time, like now. But like by late March, like 2 weeks before the show, we start double rehearsals. So we have 4 hours every day after school. We take like breaks in between later, like parents that like sign up to like provide certain things for dinner each night, and we all like eat together like as a cast.
It's really
and
good.
the booth and stage crew and stuff like that.
Yeah, everybody's there. Yeah, and could not do it without our community. The parents are incredible. We are really, really lucky. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for sharing.
Very good, nice job. Hard act to follow, Steve.
I know. Sure.
Steve, you're up with your behavioral updates.
I'll just come around. Good evening, everyone. For those who I have not yet met, my name is Steve Messé. I'm the Director of Student Affairs here at MVU. We're going to look and talk about a little bit of our behavior data here in grades 7 through 12. But before we kind of get into some of the specific numbers connected to that, I wanted to kind of give some context and have a little bit of reference points for you all to kind of understand as we talk about our behavior programming here. So what you have in front of you are a few different documents. Before we kind of talk about the blue sheet and the green sheet in front of you, that first document that has what's listed as major, minor, and potentially major behavior. The context here is over the last few years, some of our leadership team members have participated in something that we've framed as our social, emotional, and behavioral team. So Tanya and myself and Christy have been leading that work over the last several months and years. And really the impetus for that was trying to make sure that we're providing all of kind of the resources to our faculty and staff to be able to help manage and address behaviors that they're seeing on a day-to-day in the classroom level, but to also just kind of calibrate as a school as to what those behavior responses look like, and so that there's some level of consistency in the work that we're doing and the support that we're providing students. So that first document was something that we generated last year as that leadership group, and something that we have then obviously presented to our faculty and staff towards the end of last year and have continued to kind of work through and update over the last several months. But that is something that, based on some of the feedback that we've received from our faculty and staff, was a desire that they had to be able to articulate or help understand what was behavior that was going to be more kind of classroom managed and teacher focused and addressed, and then what type of behavior was going to be more managed and supported excuse me, from office personnel, behavior support staff, and then ultimately administrators within the building. So that's been kind of a guiding document that we've used over the last 12 or so months to help kind of have all of our staff kind of be on the same page, so to speak, as to who's going to be kind of leading that work as it relates to behavior support and response. So I just wanted to kind of share that as kind of that overarching document. And then the other two pieces that you have there are office behavior referrals. So the green document is something that's more attendance focused. So we have a handful of staff, both in the middle and the high school, that are working to support student behavior and follow up and address student attendance concerns. So that green sheet is something that we use primarily in the high school. If there are students who are chronically targeted class or are cutting class or are otherwise leaving class without some level of awareness or approval, then that's a document that teachers and staff will submit to folks in the office to help kind of follow up and process those types of issues, but also to kind of create a certain level of a paper trail and a documentation so that we have kind of a mechanism for recording and tracking those issues. Similarly, the blue sheet that's in front of you is something that we have updated and refined multiple times over the last several years, and Christy did a great job of leading the work on this particular document last year. And again, that is really the mechanism that we use to be able to not just track some of the issues that we're having, that students are experiencing, so that we know kind of as office staff or as teachers as to what's going on and some of the issues that are taking place. But obviously so that we're also tracking some of the interventions that we're attempting, some of the strategies that we're using to support students. And you'll see kind of different pieces within that document as to kind of how we're recording some of that information. So within that process, or kind of after there is kind of an issue within a classroom setting, teachers are completing those forms. You'll see on the back side of that blue sheet, this was a change that we made this year where minor behaviors that are kind of more managed in the classroom, those are documented within each one of those four sections on the back side of that sheet. And then so those are more kind of classroom managed, teacher managed behavior responses. And then should that become kind of a chronic issue or something that's happening repeatedly, then the teacher or staff will flip it over, complete that front side of the document, and then hand it in either to some of our office support staff or a member of the administrative team. And so that's really kind of the practice and the process that we use here. And really, again, that is not just so that we're recording it, but obviously so that we can have a better understanding of some of the interventions that we've used, ones that have been a little bit more successful, or maybe certain instances where students have not been necessarily responsive to the interventions we've attempted, so that we can better kind of track and record what other next steps we might need to put in place. So as we kind of scroll through, Julie, with kind of that behavior data tracking piece. So as I mentioned, all of the major behaviors are obviously managed at the admin or office support level. We take all of this information kind of that's written here on any of these forms. Then we have kind of two concurrent systems, electronic systems, to manage and warehouse all of that data. So we do use PowerSchool, which is our student information system, to manage all of our major behaviors and to kind of warehouse all of that information. And then we use a program called EduClimber to manage and track and record all of our minor behaviors. The reason that we have kind of two different systems working simultaneously is Rusty Gregory has built a system through PowerSchool that actually feeds directly into our state report. So years ago, when I first started here, we would have to manually at the end of every school year upload all of our behavior data into a state reporting software. It was super time consuming, very arduous, and was not super user friendly. So Rusty's done a great job of actually building a system that we can enter that information into PowerSchool, and that feeds directly into that end of the year report that goes to the AOE. No.
Because I can't see you, you're gonna have to tell me when you want, just say next slide.
Sure, yep. So next slide. There you go. And actually even one beyond that is better. So not all of the behavior that we track or record or otherwise process with students ends up in that state report. They're actually looking for specific pieces of information. They're tracking in-school and out-of-school suspensions, hazing, harassment, bullying issues, drug and alcohol infractions, and a handful of other instances that would otherwise be defined as major behavior. So all of our major behaviors are entered in the PowerSchool for that, and then all of our minors are captured in EduClimber. And what that allows is that all of our school staff, if they're in a parent meeting, teacher conferences, or if they're an IEP or a 504 meeting with parents, they have access to that information within EduClimber, so they can not just look at academic assessments or attendance data, but also have some of the behavior data kind of at their fingertips and be able to kind of review and outline with parents as well. So next slide. So what I thought might be helpful was just to give a little bit of a taste and an overview of some of the behavior response protocols and options that we use most frequently. So again, that SEB group that meets once a week has done a lot of work around professional development with our faculty and staff, and outlining and supporting them in using different strategies and interventions at the classroom level. And so a couple obviously quick and surface level reviews there as to what they're using at the teacher level. But again, we've done a lot of work around relationship building and kind of different ways to kind of connect with kids and to kind of follow up on different issues that might be happening at the classroom level. And so a lot of that work is ongoing. It's not necessarily, kind of a destination that we arrive at or an end goal, but really just an ongoing process of enhancement and improvement. So that work is constantly happening. We had another SEB meeting discussion today. At our faculty meeting tomorrow, actually, we're going to be reviewing and working with staff around our student cell phone expectations and kind of recalibrating as a faculty around that process. So that work is just, again, ongoing and kind of ever evolving. On the admin level, we do have obviously some of those same options and responses that are available to teachers, but we also obviously have a little bit more latitude in kind of addressing things in a little bit more of a significant way. One of the things that we have used over the last several years is something that we've dedicated a fair amount of time and financial resources to, is training a handful of staff in something called collaborative problem solving. And that's done through a program called Think Kids, which is through Mass Gen in Boston. And that is kind of a research-based intervention model that a host of us here at the school have been certified practitioners in, and we're kind of slowly rolling out kind of the process for all of our staff to be trained in that at kind of the surface level or tier 1 level, is what they call it. So we've yielded some pretty positive results from that. It's much more of an educationally focused intervention than a punitive or disciplinary focused intervention. And so again, just wanted to kind of give a little bit of context as to what that behavior response and what some of those options are available to us on any given day.
Steve?
Yep.
So how extensive is that training?
So the collaborative problem solving tier 1 training is a full 2-day training. When we had a cohort of folks here that first started that about 5 or 6 years ago, and that was all in person. So we actually sent a group of us down to Boston to participate in that. Post-COVID, they have transitioned that to an online training. So actually Dan and Kylie Ashton just a few weeks ago participated in the online tier 1. We've got another set of folks that are going to be doing it here. Actually, I think Tiffany Tell did it this week.
Doing it this week.
And then another cohort that's going to be doing it here in the next couple weeks. So once we get kind of a larger group of folks that are tier 1 trained, then we'll kind of continue to kind of spread and grow that process a little bit. Unfortunately, a lot of the first folks that participated in that early on have since left the district and gone to other schools. So myself and Devin Quinlan are the 2 certified practitioners in the building right now. And we're going to be actually pretty soon starting our certified trainer course. And that will allow us actually to be able to deliver the tier 1 training to everybody in the district as well. So that's something right now that's more kind of focused on the middle and high school level, but the hope and goal is to be able to kind of spread that across the district so that some of the language and the strategies that we use, kids will become familiar with it at an earlier age, and obviously that will kind of trickle up, so to speak.
Thank you.
Yep. So some of the behavior data specifically that we wanted to touch base on or kind of give some context to. So I wanted to kind of first give a little bit of awareness as to kind of where things were at last year. So we've broken things down middle school and high school. You'll see that last year for the entirety of the 22-23 school year, there was just shy of about 400 office referrals just within the middle school, so in those 7 and 8 grades. The behaviors that were most commonly referred last year was classroom disruptions, general disrespect, and inappropriate language. And again, a large portion of that was really classroom managed before it got to the level of kind of that major level, so to speak. And then in the next slide, you'll see kind of where things are at.
That's incidents, not total number of students.
Correct, yes, that's number of referrals, and so I didn't break down number of students, but it wouldn't be anywhere close to that same number. Yep. So this year for the 23-24 school year, to date the middle school is at 278 referrals, so obviously a little bit of an uptick across the board, but you'll see here in a little bit we've got some positive trends that I want to touch upon as well. Most commonly referred behaviors this year, again, looking at some of those classroom disruption issues, non-compliance with adult requests, and then some general disrespect. So again, some of those same common themes that we've been seeing across the board, not necessarily specific to one grade or the next. Last year in the 2022-23 school year in the high school, just shy of 1,700 total office referrals in grades 9 through 12. Which, as you can imagine, a pretty big number when we're talking about 4 grade levels. Most commonly referred behaviors last year, class cuts, non-compliance with adult requests, and inappropriate language. And something that we're actually really excited to see as we started to look at that data is that this year, to date, we are just shy of 700 so far. So if you kind of play that out for the course of the year, should we stay on that same trajectory, we're going to have a pretty significant reduction in total referrals from last year to this year. Somewhere, hopefully, if the numbers hold, in the neighborhood of about a reduction of about 200 referrals or so. So that's pretty significant.
Do we have the ability to look at year-to-date so that we're comparing apples to apples?
Yeah, I don't have it with me right now, but yes. So the 695 is year to date. Last year's year to date it was about on par actually with where that 1600 is at. So it was about 800, 850, somewhere in that ballpark year to date last year. Yeah.
Steve,
yep.
it seems, so in both the middle school and the high school, what dropped tremendously, besides the numbers, especially for high school, was the non-compliance and the inappropriate language, both, which is pretty major.
Pretty substantial, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and I think a lot of that speaks to, and we'll touch upon this towards the end here, but I think a lot of that speaks to the amount of resources and efforts that we've spent on building relationships with kids. And I think that goes a long way both at the classroom level and then certainly at the support staff level of we're going to reduce that recidivism with kids, the better that we can kind of build those connections with them, and not just between adults and students, but between students and students, right? And so those peer issues hopefully are, we're starting to see a decline and a little bit of an improvement on that level as well. And then that next slide, again, so some of the trends that I kind of wanted to touch upon specific to the middle school. So you'll see that year to date, as it relates to inappropriate language, is trending downward. So we've got 20 combined incidents in the middle school of inappropriate language, which is obviously on pace to be significantly less than that same incident or that same behavior than it was last year. And then it's kind of hidden a little bit there, but you'll see incidents of physical aggression in the middle school also on the decline. So 11 incidents to date on that front, which is a pretty significant departure from where things were at last year. So all things that obviously we wanted to key in on and focus in on the positive perspective there. And then in the high school behavior trends, this was one of the most stark and drastic pieces of data that I pulled over the last several years. And for what it's worth, we try to do some level of behavior data review periodically throughout the year. So just within our kind of our behavior team in the middle and high school, we do have a data team that meets regularly that looks at behavioral trends and kind of identifies certain things that might be working, certain interventions that we might need to deploy more frequently, or times of the day, locations of the building, all those types of things. So we're pretty consistently looking at behavior data, and like I said, that particular piece around noncompliance and profanity, one of the most significant pieces of data that we've looked at over the last several years. So we had 412 combined incidents of noncompliance and profanity last year, and we're on pace for under 100 this school year. So pretty amazing to see, and again, I think that speaks to a lot of the work that's being done across the board amongst our faculty and staff. And then on the right side, you'll see the drug, alcohol, and tobacco / vape violations have somewhat flatlined. So we had 48 combined incidents last year. We are on pace. We had just 24 exactly at the halfway mark of this year, so about on pace for that. We'd obviously prefer to see a decline in that, but based on some of the data that we've seen in the Youth Behavior Risk Survey, adolescent use of vape devices and products is on the incline pretty significantly. So the fact that we have been able to kind of flatline those types of issues here, I think is, a step in the right direction. So we certainly, again, are going to continue to work on addressing those issues from a more of an educational standpoint than a punitive one. But the fact that we're kind of in that same ballpark as we were last year, I think is a step in the right direction. Yeah.
Do you see any correlation with like recent laws that have been passed and just more acceptability to certain drugs, and obviously vape has become a big thing for young people. Have you seen that as an influence on, has it grown in the recent past and now it's flattening out, or is it up and down?
So I don't know that I would necessarily tie it to any legislative action, but we did see a pretty stark increase just prior to COVID around vape use. And then obviously when everything went remote, there was a steep decline in the number of issues that we addressed on that front. I will say that a majority of we don't see really, I can't remember the last time we had a pack of cigarettes or a tin of chewing tobacco taken from a student. It is almost exclusively vape products when it comes to tobacco nicotine use. And dab pens. So we have seen a little bit of, and for those who don't know, it's dab pens are kind of a high concentrate THC or marijuana oil that is, I won't say over the counter to be able to be purchased, but if you're over 21 in the state of Vermont, then you could go to the dispensary and buy those. And so not necessarily accessible to our youth, but through older siblings or, however they seem to obtain them, we have started to see those come a little bit more over the last couple of years. But it has been a little bit of a roller coaster and a little bit of an ebb and flow prior to COVID. And then I think we're now starting to see, again, some of that use kind of, that based on the youth risk behavior data, certainly be on the incline.
I have a question too. So for the high school behavioral trends, I saw that you touched on like drug, alcohol, tobacco stuff, which I understand is probably much more prevalent in the high school than the middle school. But I was hoping to see some information on physical aggression, similarly like you had reported on for the middle school. So do you have that information?
I can certainly get it to you. Yeah, I think anecdotally, we definitely have seen a decline in the amounts of peer-to-peer assaults or fights, or kind of mutual frays that have happened across the high school over the last several years. Again, what the actual numbers are exactly, I'm not sure off the top of my head, but we can certainly share that out once we pull that.
I think that would definitely be good to do. I think, especially recently, I'm hearing a lot of concern from people in the community that it seems to be higher, whether or not it actually is. I've seen a lot on social media and things like that from other people going around. So I definitely think putting that in here and making that available would be helpful, because especially if it's not true, and if it is lower than in years past, I think putting that out there would be good.
Yeah, and I think you made a great point around the advent, or maybe not the advent, but at least the continued use of social media. I think the narrative can sometimes not necessarily reflect the reality on the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Sort of related to that, the bullying aspect of things, I have similarly heard concerns increasing that is becoming much more prevalent. And I don't know how you track something, bullying is very subjective in some ways. But I know that is another area of concern that at least I have heard from parents and others in the community. So if that's something that we could get information on as well, so that we have information to say, no, look, this is what the data says. That would similarly be helpful.
And that is actually pretty significantly tracked, because that's one of the pieces that does go to the AOE in that end of the year report. So we do have a ton of data around substantiated claims of bullying and harassment over the last several years. So I can certainly share that information.
Great, thank you.
Steve, when a board member, like tonight, asks a question, and you say you'll get back to them, is there a way you can feed it into Julie or Dan and every board member gets it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I found at times, not you, Ben, but certain times in the person asks a question, gets information, the other 8 people might not even ask him a question.
Sure.
So, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do these numbers include the bus?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. So so we have 2 different bus companies, obviously, that we contract with, and their bus drivers will submit referrals that don't match necessarily the documents that we use, but we do keep record of that and track it in a similar way. So yeah, all of that data is captured within that as well.
Okay, great, because I know Missisquoi had given us a pretty in-depth report on the bus and some behaviors, and that was a tricky issue. And then I asked, because from my understanding, a lot of the more issues come from the middle schoolers and high schoolers. One of the things I am the least fan of is how we have 6th graders, not 6th graders, but like 1st graders in kindergarten on a bus, high schoolers. And so if there's a way to maybe parse some of that data out, because important that those behaviors on the bus setting, where there's only one bus driver, there's no adults around, that students understand that that is a privilege and that can be removed. And I would be in support of anything for that because, again, I have a first grader and a sixth grader, and every day I hear of some issue and it's always coming from older students. So that's just something I wanted to have because that is one of the areas that anybody who's a parent hears about daily. And it's very much the same story. Older kids causing trouble doing things in the back of the bus. And then again, kind of much smaller kids in the front. You know, cell phones, loud music, throwing stuff. So just, I know your team's working on it, but I just wanted to say from one board member's perspective that I don't think there should be a lot of leeway there, without being able to say more. Just wanted to bring that up.
Fair. And I would just say to any parent that's out there that might want to listen, or that is listening, you know, if there is something that's occurring, please make sure that the bus driver is aware of it, and make sure that that's usually one of the main obstacles is that a lot of time it's not reported to the bus driver and they're unsure of exactly what happened or who said what. And so, you know, we act on, you know, any report that we get from the bus company. So, yeah.
And I will add, a positive note, is one of the nicest things I've seen though is, one of the bus drivers, I know this happened before, is actually staff in the school. And that seems actually, particular routes would made a big difference. So that is something that is very positive to see in that sense.
So just to kind of put a ribbon on all of this, one of the couple things that I wanted to key on, and I've referenced it before, but we have done a fair amount of work over the last several years, even dating prior to COVID, around the social emotional learning that's happening in our schools. And so this isn't just an MVU middle and high school kind of call out, but really district-wide, we've done a lot of work on that front. And while that might not always necessarily be paired with behavior support and work, I think one of the things that we have identified pretty early on in that process is that if we can front load some of that skill building that students and adults, for what it's worth, have the ability and the opportunity to work through, then that will better position them to be able to manage and problem solve and kind of work through any strategies and challenges that they might have. So, you know, that work, again, specifically focusing not just on the kid level work that we're doing, but on the work that we're doing ourselves, has made a huge difference. You know, people have probably heard, staff have heard me say, like, we can't necessarily change the way students behave, but we can change the way we respond to the way that they behave. And so that's one of the big things that we've really keyed in on over the last several years is what is our adult front-facing response to student behavior? How do we remain calm and measured and approachable as we kind of sort through those issues? And then lastly, a quick shout out to, so we do have some new staff at the high school. Victoria Bella and Kylie Ashton are two new SEL coordinators. Victoria kind of has a hand in both middle and high school, and Kylie's primarily in high school. But they have done an incredible job over the first half of the school year, building really significant and robust relationships with kids and with colleagues. A lot of their work has really significantly reduced recidivism. So some of the students that were really struggling, they might still struggle, but far less frequently and with as much intensity as they had prior to some of the work that Victoria and Kylie have done. And it's been much more of an educational approach. So they've done a lot of work around not just necessarily offering some level of punitive discipline or consequence, but really pairing that with some level of education and working with kids individually on some of the skills that are associated with whatever challenges they might have. So I say that because I know that that was you know, some of the support and conversations that you all have had over the last 12 months to kind of put people in positions that have allowed some of that work to continue and to grow. So we're very appreciative of it because it has already, as you've seen, started to yield some really positive results. So it's really great to see over the first, you know, handful of months of the school year.
Do they work under your direction? And coordinate with the guidance department?
At times, yes, yep, for sure.
Very difficult job, so thank you for all you do. Resource-wise, is there anything that you feel more of or less of it might help, or it's just tackling problems?
Yeah, it's like anything else. I think our biggest barrier is time, and more time with kids and more time to be able to have some of those really challenging one-on-one conversations. From a resource standpoint, from a personnel standpoint, I think we're in a really good spot. We've got a really great team and a strong group of folks that are offering those supports. And again, a lot of the work that we're doing professional development wise to be able to position classroom teachers and support staff, paraeducators, et cetera, in a place where they can address some of these things before they grow and turn into bigger things has been really impactful. So I think we're in a really good spot. I mean, I don't want to knock on this fake wood here, but I'm appreciative of the work and the folks that we have doing the work because I think we're making gains.
Thank you, because I don't know if I could ask Laura for more time in the budget.
Yeah.
For myself too.
How do the resource officers work into this?
So really we try as best as possible to create some separation between what our behavior staff are addressing and what issues ultimately arrive at Officer Scott's desk. So really the biggest linchpin or kind of connection would be for that vape issue or those types of drug and alcohol issues where he obviously would be following up with some level of a citation or a ticket for those types of issues as well. And then obviously he'll kind of have a front, or I should say a back end support if there's some type of assault or a theft or issues that are obviously not just a school issue but also criminal. But as far as kind of the day-to-day behavior support and management, we want to try to keep those roles separate because that's ultimately really not his role.
Yeah.
But he is a great support and an advocate for a lot of the work that we're doing, and also does a really great job of building connections and relationships with kids. So he'll a lot of times receive information about issues before they kind of really happen or take place because he's got good relationships with kids. So we can get ahead of things before they kind of turn into ultimately law enforcement issues.
That's the goal, right? To prevent.
I just wanted to add, he stops in to the middle school office almost every day just to check in, and sometimes I introduce him strategically to certain kids, just not because they are in trouble, but because I want them to start building a relationship or because he might be a good person in their corner.
Support.
Yeah, and so he's really great about just checking in and saying, is everything going okay? And every once in a while, it's like at the perfect moment. Yes, so good to see you.
I'm also
Have you
really
met my
glad
friend?
that I'm really glad that Kevin was also able to find a spot back at MVU because he's such a huge asset and resource to the kids. I talk about relationships between kids. I work at Scott. I was really happy to see him on day one and dropping the kids off and walking outside. That was really great. I did have a couple more questions.
Sure.
if I can ask. So I'm aware that when you report information, you have to be very careful to do so in a way that doesn't ever disclose like who the child is or really the nature of the circumstances there. So I understand that before I ask the question. I'm about to ask. Is there any way that we could know, like when you show numbers of incidents there, they're individual instances, is there any way that we could possibly know like how many different kids this is? Because I think that's also really important, right? Like if we were looking at this like, 600 number, is it 600 different kids or is it 10 kids that are compromising this? I think that's something I would be interested in knowing if we can, if that doesn't compromise anything in any way. I know that you said that the physical instances seem to be down this year in the high school as opposed to years past. Does the instances of the physical violence seem to be of like the same nature essentially? Like does it have to do with like spur of the moment, like two kids butting heads type thing and they hashed out, or does it seem to be a little bit more like, I almost want to say like motivated this year?
Find out.
Yep,
Yeah.
because that again, that's
Yep.
what I'm hearing,
Sure.
and so that's why I'm
Yeah, admittedly, it's a little bit of a mixed bag, right? There are certainly times when kids have been a little bit more, we'll say strategic in kind of setting some of those issues up. And then there's times when it is very much impulsive, and just kind of a response to something that was said or done kind of in a classroom or a hallway. So yeah, as far as kind of, a percentage of whether it's impulsive or kind of pre-planned, I would say it probably tends to trend more towards impulsive. One of the things that we don't always have the best handle on is what are the motivating factors that lead to some of the issues that we're seeing. That is something that we attempt to track through both EduClimber and Power School, but we don't always have great information as it relates to what are the precipitating issues that lead up to an issue. We just kind of get to deal with the fallout a lot of times.
Does it seem like from this year compared to last year, things seem to be a little bit more like planned out versus?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other. I think it's probably on par with what we've seen in past years. We had a stretch there where there was a couple weeks where we had a few issues back to back that were all kind of that nature. But then, like I said, it's kind of ebbs and flows where we'll go long stretches and not have any issues at all. So it's kind of hard to put your thumb on, what those initial or instigating factors might be.
And then just my other question. So it seems like for minor instances when these things get filled out, unless it's a repeat, like something that's happening over and over again, are parents notified every time a minor instance happens?
Not every time, so we kind of leave a certain level of discretion at the teacher level as to what they're communicating, depending on the nature of the offense. Certainly by the time it gets to a major level, and if it's either support staff managed or admin managed, then there's going to be some level of parent communication or guardian communication. But on the minor level, it's depending on kind of what the teacher has, their personal style or approach might be there.
Is there any way that like a parent at any time could request to see what was in there, to see some of the ones that might have been filed but they weren't made aware of?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
That's good to hear.
Thank you. And like I like what Tom said, if you could feedback some information to Julie so that she can give it to all the board members to see, it'd be great. And it'd also be great to see at the end of the year where the numbers land with specific information as well. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
I was excited to do some music.
No. Should have gone first. Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
And the other administrative staff that's still online, Tanya, is this meeting, still can't see. You can leave, yes, you don't have to stay, thank you so much. Great night.
Tanya's very important part of the behavior support team that meets every Tuesday, so I'm sure she wanted to stay for that part.
Next agenda item is the budget promotion discussion.
I wanted to start, if it's okay, Laura. I know you probably have some things that you want to share and timelines. I know JR is there and has a lot to share. But I wanted to make sure I let the board know what I've done with the PTO so far, because we had talked about reaching out to parent-teacher organizations. And I know Joanne is going next week with Joyce to Franklin. Swanton's PTO meeting is today, and I've been speaking for a couple of months with Kimberly, the PTO president. I have shared a lot of information with her, and she's sharing it with her team. And JR has created a one-page front and back to share with them. I also met with the Highgate parent-teacher kid organization a few weeks ago and gave an overview. We didn't have a budget yet, but I gave an overview and they asked questions. But in general, I wanted to hear from them what they thought people would want to know and what would encourage folks to go to vote. And they're going to be putting some things on their Facebook page. I know Swanton PTO will also be helping get out, you know, the QR code to get the absentee ballot for parents who may be going on vacation, and give us an idea of some FAQs we can have on the school websites that speak to things that are targeted in the budget for those particular schools, and directions to where they can get more information. So they had some really good feedback, and they were very positive about their schools and what the board is doing to support their schools.
Thank you, Julie.
I don't know, other than that, I've linked the budget development timeline, which has all of the updated marketing strategies that JR and myself and Julie will be working on. We're doing the same kind of strategies that we did last year as far as media, so we'll be having a large insert in the messenger. The annual report will be going out. We will have yard signs closer to the budget vote, and then JR is working on mini videos as well. I don't know if you want to kind of highlight those.
Yes, the videos in particular, I held off a little bit just because of uncertainty about the specifics of the budget. You may have seen, we did release the Act 127 video that you had seen previously, and then more recently I released a updated video about our facilities, kind of the same thing that we talked about last year, just with the updated projects from this year and the progress that we've made. Moving forward, we've kind of divided the budget priorities into 3 categories that support student success. So one of those pillars is facilities and having safe, secure, healthy learning environments. And then the other 2 pillars are instruction and retention. So having quality educational staff that come to our district and stay with our district. That's an area that we're focusing with the budget that seems to be showing some success, and so I'll be doing a video on that. And then with instruction, obviously we are investing a lot in new curriculum for the students and seeing some success with our new math curriculum, for example, and we're excited about the new reading curriculum that Coach has been talking about implementing next year. So that will be the focus of another video. But yeah, that's kind of the digital side of it. I also have just been sort of trying to maintain a positive vibe on our social media, highlighting things like the cheerleaders just getting first place, and just keeping that sort of in the conversation so that people have good feelings when they go to vote.
Also, we'll be sending out the flyer to all, or the mailer, I should say,
Yes,
to everyone in the community, and that will be going out around the 19th, hopefully, and I think we'll be utilizing what you kind of created as a base for the PTO.
Yeah, the one page, the one side of that will probably be the same, basically, depending on feedback that we may get from the PTO. We may make some changes, but that largely talks about those 3 categories of investments in student success that I talked about. And then on the other side, we'll talk a little bit more probably about the tax impact and the tax rate, that sort of the CLA.
So one thing that struck me, and I shared this with a few of you, I'm in marketing, and sort of one of the basic tenets is telling people information that is relevant to them and cutting out the stuff that's not. And I think that we're not doing that right now. one, it's really hard because we only have so many ways to get information to people. But how we talk to school employees and parents and PTO members and those with either students or family members in the schools is going to be very different than how we should be talking to those who don't have students in the schools, because they don't care about the same things, and we need to be able to present why this is still an important decision, why this is still something that you should support even though you don't have students in the system right now. I mean, everybody is concerned about tax rate increases. We need to, focus on why we're doing what we're doing, why now is the time to do it. And, one of the ways that we can help mitigate taxes is by increasing the number of families that we have in the district. The way that you attract families is by having good school systems. So helping connect the dots to things that make sense to the people who are frustrated with having to, in their minds, shoulder the costs when they're not getting anything out of it. And I think we do a really wonderful job talking about all of the improvements that we've done and all of the ways that our students are benefiting. But I really feel strongly that that is very specific to a group that unfortunately isn't necessarily the people who are out voting. Town meeting day is hard for families. It's at the end of a vacation. A lot of families aren't around. A lot of families that I know, and I'm shocking nobody, very vocal about get out and get your vote. Whether you say yes or no, you need to take advantage of your right to vote. And they just don't, because they're so wrapped up in, oh my gosh, I've been dealing with my kids for a week. That's oftentimes they're not the ones who are getting out as much as the folks who don't have that, they don't have the students in the school, so it doesn't matter that it's at the end of a week and a half vacation. That doesn't matter to them. So I just want to make sure we don't lose sight of the fact that they're two very different audiences, and how do we address that? Do we just have talking points that we can go down and be this is why it's still good, this is why you still need to support it, whether you have kids in the system or not? I don't know what the solution is, but I don't want to lose sight of that, because those are the ones that I'm at least hearing the most concern from, are people who don't have kids in the system, especially here in Swanton. People are very concerned about taxes. There's a lot of other stuff going on. So how do we get that across in a way that makes sense and hopefully helps our piece, instead of just, we love that our students have this stuff, but I don't have students, so why am I gonna pay for it?
Megan, one of the things that I was writing down while you were speaking is the fact, when we were at our board retreat, we were really talking about the ranking of our school. And I remember at our information meeting last year, a couple talking about, we want to support our kids, we just want to see the outcomes. So I think that we do have a story we can tell about the reputation of our school system, the ranking of our high school, the outcomes for our kids that are improving. I put that in our annual report, even though they were still embargoed. I just did it. Because I think it's an important part of the story. So maybe one of the videos or flyers or whatever it is, however we do it, really does highlight that, your properties are more valuable, and also your community is more desirable because of the investments you're making in your school and the progress it's making.
One of the things we should make a point to talk about is how many people are employed by the school systems, whether it's teachers, custodians, all the people that end up working with us through our facility projects. That is a huge amount of people that are coming to Swanton or Highgate and Franklin to work. And so, budget not passing doesn't just impact students, it impacts actually people who are working in the local area, and then businesses that are gonna benefit from those workers, who take lunch breaks in the area, who go out and do a number of different stuff. So maybe that's something that JR can put together that talks, because we talk a lot about students, and we talk a lot about like facilities, the facility, but we don't spend maybe enough time talking about all the people who work for them, right? Like, PEI, these contractors who are going out and doing the work, a lot of them are local to these communities. So I think that's important to say that it's not just supporting students, but it's also business and the people who are working here who are from here. So I think that's something that we should also talk about.
Which ties into the whole big supporting your local businesses that they've been booming
Well,
these past few months.
It does.
It really does.
If the school system here declines or becomes less desirable when we're trending in the right direction, that affects everything. It affects everything from people wanting to move here. It affects all the people that benefit that, all the appraisers, like all that stuff is connected. So, even from a business point of view, a zoning point of view, like it's important to show that such a huge portion of our budget is going to salary and benefits and to right back into the community. So I think we need to highlight that. Maybe that's something that JR can put together and kind of just be like, these are the people that we're supporting, and it's a sizable amount.
Yeah, and I think that there's an opportunity for that, speaking to sort of targeting the audiences. I think that a lot of, I think that the flyer that we mail out is probably the most visibility that we get from people who don't have students involved in the school system. I think there's definitely some room on that flyer to kind of dive more into some of those things. Because one of the things that I touch on the flyer is the, our investments in facilities are sort of a way of avoiding costly emergency repairs in the future. And I think that I can certainly talk more about, like you were saying, in the retention section as well, the number of employees that we have and how that supports the community, and and how that our school improving will attract a wider tax base. Everybody benefits from responsible citizens growing in that community.
It's difficult to get that message out to that group of people. I think now that we have a stronger partnership with the town of Swanton, that we are at access or a point of contact that is consistent, and so we have access to the Facebook page and social media now that we can post things on too. So if we were to create a video or any information, we have that. Going to the select board meeting last year, I think was very beneficial. Don, I think you'd agree, going to the select board meeting was beneficial, and having talking points that you're maybe talking about that are a little more specific to that group. I'm not sure if that's something the board is interested in doing again this year.
What you said is, did you ask Don if he was interested in doing that again this year?
Couple of things I'd just like to throw out. I know it's really valuable, but I've seen them work in some places. One of them is all on the early vote. You know that, I was thinking about the meeting tonight, thinking a message that went out there to say, we acknowledge, we respect the fact that people live very busy lives, our citizens live very busy lives, but we encourage you to vote, whether they vote yes or no on items. You may not want to put that part in. We encourage people to exercise the opportunity to vote, to let us know their feelings. And I say that because I think research would tell you we stand a better chance of passing a budget with a larger number of voters. Every school district I've ever voted in, you can almost not name the people, but name the percentage of no voters, no matter what you put out there. No matter what you put out there. If our budget was decreasing this year, tax rate, there'd be still a block of people who would vote no. And so the more people we get to vote, a better chance I think we have. So I don't know how you do it. You have to be a little careful, but encourage people, take the time and exercise your right as a citizen to vote, not on just on school budgets, all matters coming before the public. And this one, I don't know, but I've seen it, I think used effectively, to let people know that even though your taxes may be going up more than you would like, in recent years, the Vermont legislature has allocated a large amount of money, an increase in the money that people receive for filing their homestead tax form and paying their taxes based on income, not on the actual amount. And you have to be careful with the wording, but I still believe there are people in our 3 towns that don't know when they get that tax bill for $4,000 or $8,000, know that you can have a pretty significant income. It's way over 100,000 now. And I think that, maybe I interact with the wrong people, but I know a number of people who, if they make $50,000 a year, are doing well. If you make $1,000 a week, 40 hours a week, that's 25 bucks. We have a lot of people who don't make that money or much more. And if there's two in the family, they make 100, 110,000, they still qualify for pretty good assistance on the taxes. And I'm not sure, as I say, how you get that information out. But anything we can do to encourage people to file, then that really helps them with a real world of paying their bills and feeding their kids and doing the other things. So, a $6,000 tax bill or more doesn't necessarily mean you have to pay it. We all pay it.
I think that was most of the intent with going to the PTO meetings and putting a QR code right to a link to take absentee ballots or find out how to vote if you're unregistered on the flyer. We can also maybe push that out to the towns, something with a QR code, and see if they'll share it for us and encourage people to vote.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things is what percentage of whatever increase is actually coming from our budget. And I think that's a lot of information.
I can't hear you. What percentage was it?
What percentage of whatever tax increase there may be or may not is actually coming from our budget? Because a lot of people will see maybe taxes go up and they may not understand that a good percentage of that is not even has nothing to do with us.
Yeah, we have no control over it.
Yeah, and I think sometimes that piece is lost. And so they just say, oh, I'm gonna put it down and we can have a 0% increase and it still goes up. So a lot of people don't always understand that. They think that there is only a percentage there. So putting that information, I think, is important.
Laura, you said
At the last meeting, I was in attendance, something about the tax rate is still lower than it was pre-merger. Is that still the case? Because I think that's also something that we should be really
JR's
promoting.
including that too.
That's great, yeah,
Oh,
because
yeah,
I think that
for
will.
sure.
The little graph, yeah.
Even, we never know what the tax rate will be
Right.
in a normal year, we never do, because they always tinker with it. But, even your worst case scenario, really, the tax rate would still be lower, significantly lower, and significantly lower than what Laura and I saw today, as the average Vermont, equalized tax rate, is significantly lower than what ours would be. Ours would be basically the same, like 2 cents, like not at the latest. So it's really pretty darn flat, and you guys have done a really incredible job looking at the capacity and figuring out the amount of spending you can, given, again, how volatile things are right now across the state. But I think the important message is to say, yes, you're hearing a lot about things that are happening across the state. And remember, those are averages. We're on the other side of that average. And yes, when you get your tax bill, your CLA will be what you see, right? The majority of what you see will be how well your, how much your home is worth at this point, which is for all of us a lot more than it used to be. But the education spending part of your tax rate is much smaller. And we're on the other side of that average. It's a tough, I've been having those conversations in person, but they're hard to put on a flyer, right? But I think the videos are important for that message. I think it's important that we get some of this stuff out through not just Facebook and the websites, but classroom dojos, the town website, Facebook pages, texting more than emails. So if I can send a link to parents through text rather than an email, they're much more likely to interact with it. So those are some other strategies that we're looking at.
Are we doing just one print insert? So I think that's another thing too, is that we rely so much on social media and electronic, like do we?
Messenger, we do the big 4-page, we do the annual report,
Yeah,
and then we do the mailer.
okay.
And then we have a flyer going out to the, which is electronic or paper, I guess, either way, to the PTO. So,
I just wanna make sure we're not overlooking folks that aren't
Yeah.
on.
yeah,
social
I think the
media.
connection to the towns is very valuable. I think we tapped into that last year. We're getting more momentum in that way. So maybe more people will start to either access our links or our pages or our website, or at least go to the town sites to know they can find stuff about us, or the, say, Facebook page. So we can work harder at that. But I think last year, I mean, there were 20 people in the room at the select board meeting that heard what we said and they were listening. So that, I think, whether or not they go and vote yes, I don't know, but they heard us and they were listening and they were actively listening. So I think it was really helpful for that group too.
And I know I say this every year, probably multiple times, but there's a whole group of people who work the polls that probably never spend a minute of a day on a computer. And if they do, they certainly aren't on Facebook. And they do vote. Now, I'm sure other people vote too. I mean, we hope for good turnout. But I think that some of the old tried and true ways, I think that mailer is a good thing. It's a good thing. We don't have much for the newspapers. We now have the Messenger 2 days a week, no courier, so we're kind of hurting there. Many of the older people read it in the newspaper, they believe it's the truth. Well, if you don't have newspapers. But any way we can make sure that we aren't losing that 20% of people who don't do Facebook, don't do any social stuff, because they do vote.
Will we, there'll be extra copies of the mailers that maybe all the board members could have, so that if we're around, we are talking to people, we can pass out.
Yeah, print as many as we.
You know, because the amount of times if we stop for gas or we do something, you're talking with someone, or, hey, like, you should know, by the way, board, please go vote, how we wanna vote. I think that we can have, so.
Didn't we also, maybe 2 years ago, leave stuff at stores, but that didn't turn out so well, or?
I was just gonna ask, do we post it anywhere, like?
I thought we had, at one point, had left some flyers at, like,
Yeah, I mean, well, I do. We have like the library and like places, yeah, the stores in Franklin, the stores in Highgate, yeah. We did put stacks of them, library in Highgate.
did it work out well? Did they get people
I-
take them, or
I
you don't
didn't
remember?
get a lot of positive, not,
Yeah.
there were a lot left.
We had to collect them. We had to collect them back. I will say though, to Dawn's point about the newspaper, we pay for the insert, but we usually have, an article that, you know, and JR has been working really closely with the Messenger and, even writing articles for us that have been, placed. And a few years ago, I recall, and I wrote a letter to the editor about it, there was a sort of misleading headline that led to misconceptions about our budget the year that it did not pass on the first try. And that since then, we've actually had great relationships with the reporters that have been there. And I think that particularly this year, an article about our budget and what's important and what it means with the best information we have, I think really will reach a certain audience that doesn't go on Facebook, as you said, Dawn.
I think, Julie, you've established a very positive relationship with the Messenger, and I think that's great. As I say, I kind of sad about the loss of the Courier, because I think they were read by a number of people who didn't feel they could afford a daily paper. But there are people who still read newspapers.
Yeah, I should also point out that I'm meeting with Bridget tomorrow. I meet with her monthly to discuss, the stories in the districts, to give her ideas of things that are going on. So we are most likely going to talk about the budget, and I will share some of these details that you have shared with me is, going to be important to her.
Thank you.
Weren't Joanne and Peter gonna do a TikTok too?
I think you all should.
There you go. Okay, Joanne.
I expect choreography.
Alright, moving right along, we're gonna go to FY '26 security cameras.
Oh, sorry. Do we have anything on print yet? No, nothing?
The flyer that we just finished today
It's ready?
has a budget summary on the back, and it has some.
Yeah, it's for the PTO. So like I said, it's the one page that's kind of talking about where we're investing the budget that's, providing better outcomes for our students.
There's community dinners coming up that I'm involved with, so I wouldn't mind picking some up if they're available.
Yeah, we haven't printed any. I just finished a digital version, but
It's this weekend, Saturday.
okay.
If I could get some Friday, I can swing by Friday, like 20 copies or something.
Yeah, no problem.
Are we gonna talk about the budget informational meeting in our next meeting to prepare for that?
There's emails going around about the video. I'm not sure if we've secured a date.
It's been a challenge to get people lined up. I think sounds like most of the folks on that email don't plan to be in the video, so I'm trying to narrow it down a little bit, to pick a date.
We just go with it Thursday. And then
There were many others. So, I'm kind of thinking, I was just putting emails together here. I've had a few people ask about wanting to brainstorm the strategies, a lot of stuff we just talked about as a group, plus probably a few more. So I guess I'll just ask right here. Megan and Joanne, you guys were interested, are you guys available tomorrow night to get together for like an hour? Sure. It'll just be an informal thing with three of us.
Maybe.
6:30 or 7?
I'll have to check.
Okay, alright.
The schedules.
Okay, so from there, I think we can get another smaller group to pick a date to actually do the filming that gives JR enough time to do the edits and get it together. So we'll probably look at early week before break, so what's that? 16th, 17th.
It's Friday, Saturday.
That's Saturday, so after that, maybe somewhere around there, the beginning of next week.
Yeah, if we were able to do it the week of the 19th, I think that would give me plenty of time to get it edited.
Okay, I'd like a little gap in there, because after we talk about strategies, we may need to come back to Laura and Julie and the team for info for slides, that's all. So,
Do we not want the finance committee meeting on the 15th?
I don't know that anybody could come.
Okay.
Let's keep it though.
Keep it
Let's
on the-
hold
okay.
Yeah. 'Cause we may consider that.
Okay.
So, I don't know, I think that's kind of where we are, people that were here, I think it'd be good to have you talk about facilities again for that. Jen, I know you'll be in the room, I don't know if you want to be in the video too, just wasn't sure if you care. In the room introducing the video.
Sure, I can do that. I don't wanna be the
Yeah.
Lead character.
And then anyone else who's interested, so yeah, I know finance committee members if you're able. Sure.
Are we giving ourselves enough time to get that out? And that's my.
That
concern,
video is gonna be
and then-
played at the informational meeting.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it, okay.
And I think JR usually then kind of cuts it up, right? And we try to get it out to a wider audience too.
Yes.
Okay.
This year, because we're doing that video, I think we have a unique opportunity where I can maybe kind of release those simultaneously, where we can do longer form explanation of the budgets to play at the info meeting, and then do a Cliff's Notes version that we can put on social media that just kind of gets that information, you know, general specifics about the budgets to our libraries.
So I think if we can talk about some strategies that we know we want to incorporate into that video, we can get those over to JR and the team ahead of time, and we can align all that stuff so we're consistent from now till then.
Is the annual report done yet?
We just sent the formatted pages to the printer, so we sent that today. So they should have a proof back to us sometime this week.
So I've already had some people, they want to see the budget, the full budget, which is in the annual report. So as soon as that's, like, as soon as you all are done with it, it could go up on the website, correct?
Yeah, and I think
So,
usually.
yeah, so just, could you let me know, like, it could be within a week, right?
We could probably post it on the website.
I'm hoping to have it there by the 16th. That was the date that we had.
Yeah, well, initially, we were supposed to have the pages to the printer last Monday, but we didn't have the budget approved until last
Right.
Monday. So there's probably going to be a delay in getting it physically printed, but digital version could certainly.
Right, that's if we could, I don't wanna, no one should have it before anyone else, but if it's done and we know it's like going to the printer, there's no reason, in my opinion, why it can't go in PDF on the website. Cause that'll save days for people.
Yeah, I can do that for sure.
Alright. Any further discussion on the budget? Right, now we'll go to the policy adoption for the F-26 security cameras, first reading. Everybody got the opportunity to look on that link and read it.
Yes, we don't usually, I just wanted to make sure we did a first reading of this so that we can adopt in February. As the facility committee has been making investments in improving camera systems and updating camera systems and putting them in places where they haven't had. And the VSBA did just update their recommended security camera policy, and I sent it to the administrative team and people gave feedback. So we wanted to make sure that we adopted the recommended policy. It made sense timing-wise. And we already adhere to this policy because these are all best practices, but go ahead.
I'm just gonna move adoption of that policy.
This is the first reading. We can adopt it for the second.
No, well,
Okay, this is
we're
first reading.
reading it, it'll, JR will put it up on the website tomorrow under warned policies. It has to be warned for 10 days.
It's not policy adoption, actually.
So we would vote on it the next meeting.
Yep.
On the 20th. Thank you, Julie. Was there any comments or questions about the policy? All right, well, next we have the Ag Advisory Committee approval.
So, Dawn and Joanne and Laura were at an Ag Advisory Committee where they shared about the revamping of the Ag Advisory Committee to have a more diversity of professions related to agriculture. Dan, I don't know if you wanted to talk about it?
Absolutely, I can. So historically, since I've been involved, the Ag Advisory Committee has just kind of discussed stuff that's gone on within the department. We did a little bit more research, Richard Barwin and some others did a little bit more research about what a true Ag Advisory Committee is supposed to do. And what it's really supposed to do is to involve some industry experts who are to help guide the curriculum of what our graduates are supposed to know. So what we've done in our conversations with Richard and obviously with Joanne and Don and Laura and others is we've kind of divided it up into the three categories that we have. So kind of that mechanics end, we've got the animal science piece, and we've got the horticulture piece. And so we've invited some industry experts, local people, almost all MVU grads, I think they're all MVU grads, to kind of come in and invite them into our next Ag Advisory meeting. And what we're going to do is kind of give them a tour of the facility, divide them up among the three groups, give them a tour of the facility, and then kind of give them some of the curriculum that we already cover, to have them kind of take a look at it, digest it. We'll have another meeting in April of these industry experts, locals, and then to help guide us around what they expect graduates to know. So if an MVU graduate was going to go into mechanics, what is it that this employer would want our kids to know? If somebody's going to go work on a farm, what would you expect an MVU graduate to know? And so that's the type of information that we're going to be gathering from the Ag Advisory Committee in our next meeting, and really what shift the focus of that committee. So we're going to expand it. Historically, there's been about 6 members, standing members. We're really going to expand it to close to 20 people. So we really kind of get a lot of input, a lot of really just information from locals about what our graduates are supposed to know.
So you see the list and the update from Dan in the drive. And although the board does not in Vermont need to approve Ag Advisory members, the committee wanted you to approve the first slate of this new Ag Advisory Committee. But with the understanding that if businesses come or go, that it wouldn't be a board policy level decision, but we would, we really felt it was important for the board to authorize this.
I'll second Joanne's motion.
So, Joanne's first, Don's second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 9-0.
Just check the shorter story. Put that stuff on curriculum.
Yes, she does help, yeah.
Next is warrants.
So just read them. Alright, for accounts payable, we have the amount of $2,511,415.2. Payrolls and checks, $44,238.61. Payroll and other disbursements, $1,713,698.71. And then payroll deductions of $511,579.46. Total $4,780,933 exactly.
Yep, we need to get a motion to approve. You want first?
Yes, I will first.
Okay. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Deborah. Any discussion or questions? All those in approval, approving the warrants, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 9-0. Thank you. next is the financial report.
That was in the board drive as well. Just a couple things to mention. This financial report does include the theater seat agreement that we're going to next. It's in the amount of $161,000, but it's offset with indirect revenue, which is coming from ESSER. So we're allowed to take a certain portion of those federal funds and then return that to the general fund and use it in any way that we see fit. And theater seating is one of those things, so there's offsetting revenue for that. And then it also includes the $675,000 expense for the Babcock window contract that you approved. So those are in here. What it does not include with the $1.8 million projected surplus is the discussed HVAC, Babcock School HVAC equipment purchase that we talked about in the facility. So that's something that we might be bringing in the future, but that was sort of the earmarked item from the facility task force, that if there was a surplus available and the board was comfortable to use any more of it, that we would tackle that project. And we know that that's part of the proposals in the fiscal year 25 budget is the lease to install and design, or design and install. So part of what's creating this surplus is the special ed extraordinary reimbursement, which makes me, as I mentioned last time, a little bit unsettled as far as exactly how that's going to work out, because there's been discussions about that potentially changing, or they're putting a cap on a portion of it. So we will still receive most of the revenue. I'm confident in that. It's just the second tier I'm not so confident in anymore. So we'll keep an eye on that.
Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the financial report?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, thank you, Renick, and a second.
Second.
Thank you, Dudley. Any questions or comments on that? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the financial report, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 9-0. And then we have the theater seating contract.
We do. So that is also in the shared drive. This is a quote or an agreement with Robert H. Lord Company for $161,434 for 605 new theater seats with installation. It does not include removal. That's something that Jason and his team will be tackling, and that will be quite involved. They're gonna look just like this, basically, just like the one that's here. I don't know if Jason put that there, but
That's the new theater seating.
Well, what's the total number?
$161,434.
I don't know, the number seats.
Oh, 605.
600.
Does that increase the number that are there now? Well, if all the ones that were there, I know a lot of them are broke, but.
I believe so. There is a schematic in the
I
drive.
saw that,
So
yeah.
I don't believe
Jason did not make me aware that that was a
the
big
bu-
increase,
the
if there
base
was any room for an increase. when we
and
talked
all
about
will
it,
be
so.
the same color. So I know right now, originally there's two
Those are pretty
colors,
spaced far
like the
apart.
seat and the back.
I can ask him.
It's pretty inexpensive.
Originally when we had
Much
yeah,
less expensive.
we weren't sure which color we were going to order. So Jason, we had talked, Christine and I talked to Jason today, so I think.
That'll be done over the summer?
When this gets approved,
Yes.
they'll talk about which color it is. But you can see it's two different colors. Yeah, that was the idea.
They're just
Yes.
there's two different shades of blue.
Yes, two
Yeah.
different shades of blue.
So we haven't picked which
No.
color yet.
Nope.
But it's gonna be one of these two.
Yes.
Who gets to be on that committee?
I think you just volunteered.
Yeah, I think you just volunteered
Yeah.
yourself.
The darker one, making the shade of.
Pretty cool. Yeah, I think the prevailing thought was the dark one.
Are the arms shared with
You
the
can have your
Jason
name
share?
put on it for another $25.
There's arms.
It's like an airline,
Flip up
yes,
arms
they
and
are
aisle
shared.
chairs.
They are.
Flip up.
So I would think our boosters have a huge opportunity to, those are great seats, but they're plastic, right? So it could be a little tough on your tush for 2 hours, but I bet you could get nice pillow, or
Well, but then you
seat
sell the
cushion.
little pillows that say
Yeah,
MVU like I
exactly,
have.
that's what I'm
It's
thinking,
medical.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Or
Or,
they're more
even
comfortable than the ones out there right now.
yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
That's because they're tilted like that.
No, yeah, but they're still more even.
Slide out of them.
Or
they're
or
rockers.
even like a theater company could maybe have them available, $1 for use. Turn it back after, at band concerts.
Yeah, they do that at summer theater where I go, you can rent a ticket, just $5.
Jason said technically it's a few more than what is there because many have been removed over the years, but and not
Yeah.
returned, so,
Right.
but it's the identical layout.
If you're looking for a motion.
You're taking the old ones, right?
Yes.
I'll take the double.
For the aisle, yeah.
I talk to Jason though, I don't talk to you guys.
I think it probably
Double up in your front yard.
would eat up space if you have to have 2 arms
Right.
and then a certain amount of seat space, yeah.
Then who gets the arm?
Whoever gets there first.
Oh boy, get here early to events.
Whoever's more aggressive, just like on a plane.
Incidents are gonna go up, but.
Among the public.
Just like the airlines.
It is, it's just like the airline.
Absolutely.
Put your name in for use seat early, because it goes so fast.
Aisle or a window.
Peter, you first.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the quote for $161,434 for 605 new chairs for this theater seating.
Thank you, Nick. Any further question or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries 9-0.
I like the later.
Great. Future agenda items, Vermont CAP, teen leadership, cybersecurity, STEM fairs, strategic planning, and CIP planning. And more likely more budget.
Jen, now that the report cards have come out, can we get another report card, and grading update on for future agenda items?
Stormwater was.
That was taken off.
Yeah, it was taken off because,
Oh, it's taken off.
Yeah.
They couldn't get it
so
to us in time.
it is in the future for one of the board meetings. I can check and see which one it is
Okay.
again.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
because we're definitely gonna keep that in there.
Is that gonna be like a more comprehensive one after?
Yeah, we'll talk with Julie on that when we meet, when it gets closer to that, so we have all the information put together. Definitely.
Yeah, I think a more in-depth conversation with you guys after sort of start and go and stop and go, wait, I know that's a question, that we have up to this.
Next board meeting will be February 20th.
That's supposed to be Frank.
Yeah, so we're gonna make a correction on that, Julie, that the February 20th will be in the Franklin School. Can't say library, so.
You're muted, Julie.
You're muted, Julie.
Sorry, I don't know why it says that, but every one of our board meetings has the link to where our meetings are. It is in Franklin.
Great. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
You said everything you want.
Yes.
I know I cut you off. I will make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Peter. Greg will second it. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 9-0.